the Wisconsin Rapids Waterworks and Lighting Commission meeting to order. First order of business is approval of additions or corrections to the minutes of the following meetings. The regular commission meeting held on June 13th, 2018.
I move we accept those minutes and put them on file.
I second that motion.
Okay, Joe made the motion, John second. All in agreement, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, I guess that's the only meeting we have. Okay, the next one is number 3, an action item, request to sponsor neighborhood table for, I believe it's August, moving to the, correct?
There was a letter in the packet explaining that I think Roxanne got the initial call. I think they were scrambling to get a few dates sponsored that were coming up that they hadn't. Typically, they get companies in town to sponsor a meal each week, and we have never been asked to do this. We thought it was a worthwhile cause, so we thought we would bring it before the commission to talk about.
This is just for sponsorship for a meal and not asking for volunteers to help serve and things like that?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. I think they have that well staffed as it is.
What would this fall under for the budget line item then?
This is what you would call below the line stuff that would come out of our depreciation accounts. This is not rate-based money.
Well, this is, I guess we do a lot of this, and you know, the amount of $300 is not that large for, when you look at our whole fund, I believe. And we've done a lot of things like this in the past for other people. I think it's worthwhile. I know probably you guys know a lot of churches sponsor a month.
I think that's where most of the volunteer labor
Yeah.
comes into.
So, and if I remember, I think last year they had trouble filling August for some reason. And
Well, I'll make the motion to sponsor neighborhood table for the month of August, an amount of $300.
I'll second that.
okay, John made the motion and Joe second. All in agreement, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carried.
Thank you.
All right, safety committee minutes. I see we have an extra add-on.
Correct. They didn't meet in time. They met half.
Oh, okay.
Half went out since the went out for last week.
I wanted to meet last Wednesday, but apparently coming in on a holiday was frowned upon, so.
I just don't understand why.
I thought safety was number 1, but I mean, I guess
Except for the holidays.
it's number 5. It might happen the 4th of July, so.
Sean, for increased field audits and inspections for the electric and water utility, what do you mean by that increase? What do you normally do?
Just trying to get out there more. For the summer, we don't do any training in the summer. My first year here, I try to do training every month. Just gets everybody together. It gives you not only a time to do training, but also a forum to talk to the guys, see what's going on, see if there's any needs. About 2 years ago, I started that I stopped doing training in the summer because the guys are outside. They're doing stuff. They have things going on. So when the training is done for the summer, I like to get out there a little bit more. I haven't been able to get out there yet. Did a little bit more with the inspections with the new building in back. Getting with Jason Warren on a few improvements that we've been working on. So we're looking to just get out there a little bit more with the crews, see what's going on out there.
I like that idea. Very good. Thank you for doing that.
Absolutely.
And then I see you also coordinated confined space entry training with the entire region, and I think you should be thanked for that.
You're very welcome. That was a little bit of a circus, working with 5 of the utilities, well, 4 of the utilities total. But thanks to that, the contractor who I go through was basically able to split all the travel costs because he's coming down through Medford, Marshfield, Rapids, Clintonville, and Shawano. He's splitting all the travel across the board. When I first started using Mark through Nicolay, it was costs right around a little over $1,500, and now we have it just under 14.
Okay.
So with every time we can coordinate that, all we're doing is saving money everywhere. So it works out great.
Win-win situation. So thank you for doing that.
Absolutely, very welcome.
Is that regulation that you have to do confined space every year?
Yep, that's-
Is that MUW regulation, or is that national safety?
No, that's OSHA.
That's OSHA?
That's OSHA. OSHA says that the regulation basically states that you have to practice actually doing an entry and going through it. So we make sure that every year we have at least a minimum 4-hour refresher training where we have a couple hours of classroom, and then Mark from Nicolay College brings his trailer down. They have a big trailer, like a big playland for adults. They have tunnels and everything that they go into and simulate a confined space entry. So we do that every year. We usually try to shoot for the September, October range. So,
That's great, thank you.
you're very welcome.
Any other comments? If not, line superintendent report?
Is it just me, or are the call-ins more specific or detailed? So as we're seeing a diagram or a graph or your report, we're seeing a little better breakdown, you might say,
Since I've been doing it, I guess I've had it broke down
this way?
like this.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I guess some months there might not be in all the categories, but
Right. So as far as the weather-related incidents, what brought that on?
generally it's storms, high wind,
Okay.
lightning, that kind of stuff.
Okay. And then part power category,
Yep.
what would be covered under that?
That would be anytime a house has 120 instead of 240, they're missing one leg, one
Okay.
phase of power's out. It's usually a connection issue.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Is there any, do you have to do any pole movement? I don't know if the street is down by the river where they're gonna put that walkway. And there's a couple poles to the south side of,
Originally, the city said we could leave our facilities there, so we did. And then earlier this year, they told us we had to move them. So this is a cost we were not anticipating.
I see. Okay. Any other questions, comments? If not, the water department report?
Well, it looks like the water level still is maintained fairly well in the tower, so that's good. And then with some of the projects that the crews worked on, which ones were specifically emergency where it's a water break versus some of the maintenance items or things that you're able to schedule ahead of time to maintenance and correct?
Well, there's a couple, like the water break, for example, and the number 3 collector pump went down. That was an emergency type situation. Other things, lead services, they were kind of emergency contractor, was working on private side, seeing our side was lead, so went and replaced that as well. So it's things that creep up as you go along.
Sure.
Otherwise, everything else, the valve, repairing the valves, that we find we do our valve exercise, and if the packing leaks, then we need to fix them.
Okay.
Stuff that's kind of integrated into our maintenance.
Sure. Thank you.
I think I saw in accounts payable there was an amount for somebody did a lead service. Or was that a lead, L-E-A-D, is that lead, or is that, lead is L-E-E-D, isn't it? What is that?
We could have cut a check for that lead service program that we have with the DNR.
Oh,
That would have been the
okay.
reimbursement for that.
Okay, so that really wouldn't have anything to do with us.
That's their side of the
Yeah, right.
service.
And that program is in effect now? That
It's been in effect for about a year. We haven't had too many takers yet, but I think we just got another one.
Oh, that's
today,
probably
so
why. It was there, but there's not many people taking it.
I think there's probably been maybe 3 or 4.
It's been very
handful.
well, all people jumping on the bandwagon to do it.
Are most of those houses rentals?
Some of them are, a bigger portion, I believe, are.
Okay.
You get any, or far enough along, you get any lead services on High Street?
Not a whole lot, no.
Anything else? If not, customer support, supervisor's report.
I think overall, it's still looking reasonable, consistent with previous years, things like that.
That's a rather large number for new electric customers. Is there,
I think that was due to some apartment buildings being installed, the ones over by Lincoln High School across the street.
All right.
That's where most of those.
we haven't had that many new customers for a long time.
That trend will continue for the rest of the year, I think. Our guys are pretty much busy with customer work most of the summer, so.
That's good. Pretty much that's what we're about, right? The industrial customers aren't as large as the residential. Anything else? Any questions, comments? Okay, Director of Finance.
Jennifer, as far as the ATC refund, I understand how that will affect the end users, the customers, but as a shareholder, how does that affect the utility?
It really doesn't affect the utility as a shareholder in any way. I mean, they're paying out those funds, so it's less funds, that they have in earnings, but in the big picture, it's not a lot of money.
We used it all this month anyway because we had a high demand and not enough consumption behind it.
Oh, sure.
We used the whole bit of it this month.
Okay.
So the average customer will see between a $4 and $5 decrease in their bill because we did use that this month, so.
Okay, thank you.
What is the, you're on the financial report, you're talking about the small power and with the MC Sports and the Rapids Mall.
Sure.
And really, those are probably our two losses at the moment.
Right.
I imagine the Rapids Mall might enter back in when the new Y starts.
Right, yeah, I mean, I guess the point I was trying to make was if you're just looking at each individual line on the income statement, you're going to have movement, particularly between general service, CP1, which is the small power, and then CP2, which is our large power, just because of their demands either go up or go down. There were some smaller customers, customers in the CP1 class that were at like a 52, 53 kilowatt demand last year that were able to get that down to the upper 40s, so then they fall into that general service class as opposed to a commercial customer.
And is that has nothing to do with changing the rate, like time of day or?
No, I mean, those options are still available for those customers in those classes. That's just, the classes are based on their peak demand.
Yeah. And you also talked about, we had to buy a lot of power last month. And the consumption wasn't that high for last month. I'm talking about May, I guess.
Relative to demand, I mean, we had a couple hot days, there wasn't enough kilowatt-hour consumption behind us, so the high demand will kill us. High demand surge. That's kind of why we passed all the refund this month.
That should kind of balance out in June, shouldn't it?
Yes.
Because we had a lot of hot days.
We had a lot of
Not
hot
a lot, we
days,
had
right.
probably 5 or so,
Right.
90, and I don't know what degree day takes over for that.
Right, but yeah, definitely May was a lot higher demand based on the kilowatt hours purchased than June will be. But both of them were definitely higher than previous years.
Okay. Yeah, well, I don't think we had a day 90 last year. I think we had 4 of them before June, so. Any other questions? If not, Information Systems Administrator?
I don't know if that falls under your area, Matt, but I saw something in a correspondence about blockchain technology. So who would like to explain that?
Oh, come on, we don't have that much time.
That was actually in Jeff's report.
That was in my report.
That's your report?
That was one of the things they talked about when I was down at APPA. I went to a
Okay.
session on blockchain, which really is just, in simplest terms, is just like a distributed database, essentially, where everybody has the same information. And if the information ties out, supposedly it's impossible to change this blocks of data that's out there. So everybody has the same data, so it's easier to share information. They used an example of like shipping containers and those kind of things with bill of ladings, and you've got multiple departments, multiple countries that are looking at this data, and it's ripe for corruption because of the different opportunities that are there, where if everybody has the same information, you can't change that data. So the ports that are coming in already have that information, knows what's on those container ships. You're not looking for that bill of lading and those kind of things like that.
At this point in time, all the applications are behind the meter.
Okay.
Utilities aren't using themselves, it's customers and what have you. Walmart is trying to patent some blockchain process right now for energy consumption behind the meter, to where they put a database together that they're basically lighting's in one category, heating and cooling and everything else, and they're kind of budgeting that way and trying to do energy efficiency that way as well.
Okay, thank you.
I still don't get it.
Data.
It looks like US Cellular is on board with your AMI unit.
It looks like
How
it.
did they change since you wrote this?
It's kind of waffled back and forth. hasn't it?
Yeah, well, I haven't heard from them since I wrote this, I can tell you that. But no, they seem to be ready now.
Okay,
They've
good.
got a couple of larger implementations of their technologies as far as this secure cellular connection.
And like you said, I think you said last time or the time before, that pretty much affects the outlying areas where you are not connected to the cable.
Yeah, we were initially, and we still are, checking out the options to run our own fiber to some of the ones in town. Like we have one behind Dairy Queen over here. We've got a couple of them over one by East Junior High over that direction, and they're the closer ones running fiber to those locations where we have pole runs and we don't have to go underground or whatever. After talking with US Cellular, it may actually be less expensive to just make them all cellular.
Okay.
So we'll be weighing both options moving forward to see which one makes the most sense.
I see. Oh, good. Sounds like cybersecurity took you quite a while.
It still is, yes. But doing
Self-assessment.
the self-assessment, the one from Department of Homeland Security that I did, that took me almost a month to complete just the self-assessment portion of it. The other one that APPA put out is an extremely condensed version of that, and that only took me actually about an hour to go through. So I don't know. They both have different information, and I got to put it all together and then be getting hold of a couple of companies to get some help and get it all set up.
All right. Any other questions? Okay, Conservation Manager report.
I would like to thank the staff for attending the city band for June 26th. It's nice to have some employees there during a sponsored event, so thank you for doing that.
Jeff, was that your kids?
That was my
Yeah, no?
kids, yes. We had a good time.
That's good. Make sure you thank them.
I will.
My only question is about the solar installation update. Are these big units that these people are putting on?
Typically speaking, they probably average around 5 kW.
Okay.
Is a typical residential, anywhere from 3 to 7.5.
There's going to be no sell back to the, will there be any type of sell back to the utility?
Yes, there typically is during time periods where they're producing and generating a lot more power. They're not home during the day and they're going to put back on the grid. If they're home during the day, then they're typically using it.
I see.
So we do see, usually 11, 12 customers we are buying back from minimal amounts.
All right. Probably June with a lot of sunshine.
August
Yeah,
is,
it must taper
yeah.
off in October, November.
We see, May to September. August is typically the highest. I think last year, and with all the customers, is about 5,500, 5,600 kilowatt hours going back into the system. August being the highest month.
Any other questions, comments? If not, Director of Engineering, Electrical Operations.
Was the transformer on the way?
Tomorrow, yeah, Virginia Shipping talked to me on Monday. They had started out, so they're supposed to actually arrive late tonight to be ready to offload tomorrow morning. So we got the crane scheduled. We'll lift the old unit right away around 7:30, and by probably 9:30, we should be able to offload the new unit onto the pad. And then the Energist, which is the substation contractor that assembles the transformer. Now, originally they were scheduled for the week of June 25th, so they were tied up this week. So they'll be on site on Monday to start assembling. Probably around this time next week, we should have it in service.
Get the system back in normal operation.
Nice.
What's wrong?
With the APPA conference, it looks like you had some interest with electric and self-drivable
Yeah, that-
vehicles.
Yeah.
How do you see the electric vehicles and charging batteries, things like that in this area? As far as additional loads and what we have to do for any upgrades?
Yeah, I was surprised. That was probably one of the main topics. Both the general speakers and then all the breakout sessions discussed it. And on that topic, actually, they were talking how, let's say you lived in California, you're going to have to influence your customers so that, say they have a lot of solar in California, you're going to want to charge your vehicle when you're at work in the parking lot. Wisconsin, on the other hand, has very little solar. You're going to want your customers charging it at their house in their garage at night so that you can balance out the load profile. And it's the utilities' job, or going to be the utilities' job, to educate the customer that has these cars to do that. So that's very interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess as far as the taking off in Rapids, not yet at this point. I haven't seen any all-electric cars driving around town. There's a lot of hybrids, but nothing all-electric. So, but we'll keep our eye on it if something starts to develop. But I really don't see any real system improvements that need to be managed. More of an education process to flatten out our loads and not create unofficially high demand peaks for our wholesale power prices.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Can you talk about generalization as far as the charging units?
Again, if obviously gas stations will start having them probably quicker than anyone else, but as far as the customer goes, I think you see this in Wisconsin Rapids as just your residential people having these cars and being able to charge in their garage, so. yeah.
I know, I've seen one Tesla, I think in Wausau, so that must have been a local guy. I wouldn't take the chance going from Milwaukee with it.
Yeah, and I do think there is one charging station in Wausau that, because Tesla actually has to approve where these are located, and I believe they approved one there.
I thought I saw one at the new Quick Trip in Clover as well. No, a charging station. You'd be surprised the owner of Quick Trip could probably afford a Tesla.
That Quick Trip in Clover, I was by that the other day, and they have that natural gas filling station there.
Yeah.
Compressed natural gas and the liquefied natural gas.
Yeah. I think they see, as now as Todd was talking, I think they see that the electric technology is just starting to jump ahead of the compressed natural gas and other fuel sources, so we'll see.
Any other comments, questions? If not, general manager's report?
I'd like to thank Jen and staff for welcoming Lee Graff from the council for a tour and spending time explaining the utilities and some of the things we're doing here.
And kudos to the councilman that was interested in coming in with me behind the scenes.
Right.
We've had several over the last few years that have come through, so.
Good.
And
Scott's here all the time.
that's right. Great Lakes Utility, power purchases and rebates.
Correct. Well, it wouldn't necessarily be a rebate. Again, Blue is running way under their budgeted power supply costs for the year, roughly 10 to 15% most months. So at the next board meeting, Blue reduced their wholesale rates in the middle of 2016 by 5%, and they've held them firm since then. But at the next board meeting, likely in August, we'll probably reduce wholesale rates further. It's just a matter of how much. So that'll go directly to our customers' pockets through PCA.
Nice.
And why would you have to reduce wholesale rate?
Because right now, we have a war chest and rate stabilization already built up of about 45-some million dollars, and instead of adding more to it, why not give the customers a rate reduction is what it amounts to.
So all of the power that you guys are buying, is that kind of stabilized now that there's not a lot of spikes upward or?
Well, it depends. I mean, we have layered contracts. We have long-term contracts. We have intermediate, 3 to 5 year deals, and we have 1 and 2 year deals, and days when we're buying on the open market. So the price is all over, but when you meld it together, it's still very cost effective. These are still all the same changes that I implement when I got here.
Does Manitowoc have a person that works with power brokers continuously when you talk about buying, spot power and 2 year, 4 year, 10 year?
3 or 4 probably that are work on power supply related things.
Okay. Yeah. Can't afford air conditioning.
I guess not.
Any other questions of Jim? If not, the accounts payable register?
Looks like as far as expenses for the addition on lane 2 projects, those are finishing up then?
I believe those are the final expenses that came through here. Might just be a few small things coming in next month, but the majority of items have been hit that.
Okay, good, thank you.
Yeah, on page 4, what I mentioned about the lead service. So if somebody does that, you give them the money and then the DNR reimburses us or something?
Exactly, right. Once they have the project done, they come in, show us they met the qualifications that they needed to meet, give us a cost of the bill, and then we cut them the check for up to $2,000 is what we'll pay them, and then we'll accumulate these costs and then send them into the DNR eventually.
Okay, good. That's just odd that more people haven't taken advantage of
I
it.
would agree. I mean,
Relatively speaking, compared to other munis, we have a much smaller amount of lead services out there than others.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, Manitowoc's probably got, oh, God, I can't even venture to guess, but many more than us.
Milwaukee.
Yeah, Milwaukee.
The only other question I have is on credit card charges. And this might just be the way it's put in for the apprentice school.
sure.
They both say, well, really, there's a whole bunch of 511s. I take it that's the date, 511 for travel and lodging.
I think those are setting up the classes. You kind of have to prepay and set up for some of those. They're over in Green Bay and they wanted to prepay for the class.
Yeah, because the same names were issued like 4 times.
Yep.
It was the hotel, and they required prepayment in advance to give us a good break on the rate.
Okay, I see. That's the only thing I have.
I don't have anything else.
All right, and then one other thing, Jeff, I see you have on page 7, an extra added accounts payable check register. Is that just checks that didn't make it in the other?
There was just that many credit card, so it actually hit the second page, so it's kind of a continuation of.
Oh, this is a credit card?
These are the credit cards, they just all
Okay.
into them first. They get a lot of credit card charges.
Yeah, they kind of look like credit card charges,
Yeah.
all 200 or 150 or something. Would somebody, I think we're at the point of, somebody make a motion for us to adjourn? I'll do that.
Full second?
Okay. All in agreement, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
We didn't get a chance to vote today, what's that?